This is the training tutorial for the Sound Studios. I'm going to start in Sound Studio 1 because this is the most likely one that you will use. And here's what you need to know. All of the sound that goes in and out of the computer goes through this box here. We've got a bunch of cables that go out of it into the speakers here. And then we've got a bunch of cables that go into it coming from things like the mic here, as well as the microphones that are in here, okay? So you can turn the computer on, and then the first thing you're gonna wanna do after you turn the computer on is turn on the Mode 2 Traveler. The power button is right here. It's gonna take a little bit to initiate. This audio interface connects to the computer through, I believe, USB, and it has 4 inputs. So you can have 4 microphones connected to it at one time. You've got your headphones that connect here to the headphone output, and you can change the volume of the headphones by adjusting it here. And you'll see that if I turn this, the headphone volume goes up and down. The master volume is this one here, and this is for changing the volume inside the Sound Studio for what comes out of the computers. So I can turn the volume up and down accordingly here. All right, so turn the speakers on. Channel 1 is, boom, the left speaker. Channel 2 is the right speaker. Channel 3 is the center speaker. Channel 4 is the subwoofer, which is down there. And channel 5 is the speaker on the back left. And channel 6 is the speaker in the back right. Now, you only need these if you're doing 5.1 surround sound mixing. So I'm going to turn these off because we're just going to do stereo today. So most of the time you just need channel 1 and channel 2. The numbers that I gave you for the speakers are the same as the standard output for all 5.1. So channel 1 is the left, channel 2 is the right, 3 is the center, etc. That's how it's usually routed for all professional applications. Okay, you can control the gain, which is how loud the mics are going to be right here using these knobs, and you can turn on phantom power or turn it off. It's good to leave it off when you're not using it, at least for channels that aren't needing it, and it's definitely not a good idea to use phantom power for mics that don't need it. Each Sound Studio has an Octava mic. That's the one with the little, it's the little mic there that you can see with the little red on it. Each Sound Studio has one of these, and they do require phantom power to be turned on to operate. So channel 1, I have phantom power turned on because that's what that mic is plugged into, okay? Now, on the computer here, I'm just gonna open up, you have this QMix app here, and this app is what allows you to control this from the computer, and you actually have more control here than you do through here. It's a lot easier to access on the app, okay? So here's what you need to know with the app. Analog 1, 2, 3, and 4, those correspond to the 4 inputs that this audio interface has. The way I've got it connected, and unless somebody changes things, this will be the same for you. Channel 1 is the mic inside the sound recording studio. And channel 4 is the mic that's here at the computer. This is for you to be able to talk back and communicate with the person in the sound studio. I suppose you could use it for recording yourself too, but it wouldn't sound as good in here. All right? So under inputs, you got these tabs at the top. You got mixes and inputs. Under inputs, you can change the trim level, which is the gain. How much gain are you applying to that microphone? So right now, I'm just going to turn off channel 2. You can see that analog 1, the gain is set to 28, and analog 4, it's set to 42. And basically that's how much power is being applied to the mics, all right? And then mixes is where does that sound now go? All right, and it's kind of confusing, but there's this little drop-down arrow. This is the key here. If you click on this, you can send it to different buses, and I've got it configured so that bus 1 sends out to analog 1 and 2, which is the stereo speakers left and right here. So bus 1, the sound comes out inside the sound studio. Bus 2, the sound comes out in the recording studio. You can have sound going to both of them, but here's the thing: you now have complete control over who hears what, because you can see that in bus 1 I've muted channels 1 through 4. That means no sound will play back in the sound studio. But if I unmute channel 4, you'll hear it. Watch. Hello, check 1 2 test test test. You can hear that it's now coming out of the speakers in the sound studio. All right, and I don't want to hear myself in the sound studio, so I'm going to mute that. But now if I go over here to mixes and bus 2, I can make sure that the person in the sound studio can hear myself coming out of the headphones. And if I don't want them to hear me, I just hit mute. And now they're not going to hear me, but they're still going to hear themselves. If they don't want to hear themselves, you can mute them. You can mute it so that they're not hearing themselves, because you're muting only what's going out of bus 2. Bus 1, you could unmute it and you could hear them in the sound studio. Now again, this is only controlling what's coming out of this Motu unit. It's still all going into the computer and will be recorded by the settings you use in the recording software. This is just for monitoring purposes. So it can be really important to make sure that you're controlling how loud things are being heard in these outputs, as well as the proper recordings, the levels, so it's not clipping or it's not too low of volume. So you can control that here. Okay, a couple quick tips here. Adobe Audition, you're going to find there are a few times where you might not be able to get sound, and here's what the causes are. Go to New Multitrack Session. Let's make this one a 5.1 surround sound project. And you go to your preferences. If you're playing back audio and you're not getting any sound, usually the problems are you forgot to turn this on, or it just needs to, it didn't connect to the computer for some reason, it needs to be reset. But usually the problem is actually this. It's up here in Preferences, Audio Channel Mapping, and it's the same thing in Adobe Premiere Pro. You can have this happen where the audio channels are mapped improperly. It's less likely to happen on the small Sound Studio and Sound Studio 1, more likely to happen in the large Sound Studio where you have problems there because we don't output the same way as we do in this Sound Studio. All you need to do is look here under Output and make sure that they're going to the proper one. So left is channel 1, right is channel 2, center is 3. LFB stands for subwoofer, that's channel 4, and then left rear and right rear, channel 5 and 6. As long as those are properly set, which it looks like they are, you're good to go, because you could go in here and we could change them, and now channel 1 is going to the ASEBU1. Well, we don't want that. We want it going out to analog 1. All right? Just make sure you set that, and then you can kind of control and pan where the sound's coming out with the 5.1 surround sound system here in Premiere. In Adobe Audition, but you can do the same thing in Premiere. So if you're having problems getting the sound out, most likely it's due to the audio mapping not working properly, this being off, or again, check your volume settings here to make sure that you actually have the volume turned up loud enough to hear it. Good word of advice: before you play back any sound, check the volume and turn it down really low, because you can damage the speakers, you can damage your hearing. It's just really uncomfortable when you are testing things and all of a sudden it comes out at full volume because somebody left it really loud last time and the speakers were off and they weren't paying attention or something. So protect your hearing. Okay, and in the Sound Studio, you can connect up to 4 microphones into this, which is called like a snake. And you can see channel 1 is going to this mic here, and channel 2 is going to another mic that somebody connected and left in here. Pro tip: put away your stuff after you're done using it. The Sound Studio should always come with this mic, but everything else needs to be put away afterwards. And then in and out here, this is actually what's connected to the output on channel 7. You don't need to worry about that, but in case for more advanced features you might want to know that 7 is what outputs to the headphones. This is important to know, for example, if you're wanting to play back some music that somebody already recorded and they want to sync to it or something like that. You're going to need to be able to force the audio to come out of channel 7. It's the same for both Sound Studios. Also, both Sound Studios have a monitor that's inside, and this monitor shares the same output as this monitor on the wall. So, for example, if you're doing ADR, you can just put something up on the screen and turn the monitor on, and both rooms, and it'll just pop up on the screen because they are on the same HDMI output that goes into the back of the computer. All right, so Sound Studio 2 is configured exactly the same as Sound Studio 1, with channels 1 through 6 being your same configuration. The monitor up here coincides with the monitor that's in the recording studio. In the recording studio, you've got a snake, and it's a much larger snake. Just remember, you can only use the first 8 channels. An 8-channel snake. And the main difference is really you just have more channels. You have a larger audio interface. You've got 8 inputs, and the trick for turning phantom power on and off is a push and a hold. So push, hold, and there you see it turn off. Push, hold, turns on. If you push one time, it'll turn the pad on and off. And the pad is really for connecting line level devices to lower the input gain. You don't need to worry about that unless you're connecting like a mixer. Controlling the volume. Master volume is for the inside the room. Headphone volume for controlling the headphones. Please, please, please just remember, really never turn this off. You can leave the power conditioner on all the time. The power conditioner just makes sure that we're getting clean power. Just leave this off. The worst thing is people leave these on and they burn out the lights in here. These are little lights that I can turn up. You guys can see the light in there. All right. This is just for like in dark environments so you can actually see what's going on. But turn those off. Push those tubes in. Just leave them alone. All right. Channel 1 through 6 is the same for speaker configuration as the other room. This is the gain for every channel here. That's really the main difference. All right. On the screen over here, the only other thing you need to know, really, actually, it's the same. The software is the same, QMix, which is hidden down over here. That's QMix. That's the program that controls the mixer. Just know that on the larger mixer in the larger Sound Studio, channel 8 is the mic that's in the Sound Studio, all right? So you've got channel 8 is this one, channel 1 is that one, and if you want to connect more stuff, you can just turn it on over here, channel 1 through 7. It's all the same otherwise.